Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Jim Harbaugh has his team getting ready for the Citrus Bowl. John Beilein is trying to mold his young team into a competitive Big Ten group, and that's without the services of Spike Albrecht. Women's basketball is off to a pretty darn good start, and Coach Red Berenson has Michigan hockey trending up. It's a busy time of the year in Michigan athletics, and of course we're all busy getting ready for Christmas too. In the coming weeks I will have our Citrus Bowl preview shows, and we'll start to turn our winter programming focus to basketball, hockey, recruiting, and yes, before we know it, softball and baseball. Today we're taking time out to remember Michigan great and now a member of the College Football Hall of Fame, Rob Lytle. Rob's son Kelly Lytle will be our guest coming up in just a couple of minutes. I had originally intended for this show to be a Michigan Man Extra segment, but I decided we should publish this as our regular show for this week because it deserved that kind of attention. Before we get to Kelly, let's check out our Wolverine news and notes for this week. By the time this show publishes, we could have some big recruiting news. Devin Bush Jr. from Florida and Kareem Walker from New Jersey are both scheduled to announce their schools of choice in the next couple of days. Recruiting analysts aren't sure which way they will go, but Michigan is considered to be right there when it comes to the final choices for both of these very talented four-star athletes. If they commit, this recruiting class, which is ranked 5th or 6th by most experts, will surely move up. If Rashawn Gary comes on board in January, we could have a top 3 class, so stay tuned. Jim Harbaugh and his staff have been on the road just about every day since the season ended, making in-home visits. We are now in the recruiting dead period, which will run through January 14th. Then it heats up again, right up to National Signing Day in February. As usual, it will be an interesting and exciting time of the year to cover. Last Tuesday, Michigan great Rob Lytle was officially inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. For those of us who saw him play, this was long overdue. For many of you younger listeners, you've seen highlights and you've also seen some great backs roll through Ann Arbor in your lifetime. But I'm telling you, Rob Lytle on film cannot replace having seen him play in person. He was fast, he was tough, and he was fiercely competitive. He did anything he could for the team, and he was beloved by his teammates. Before the announcement of his selection was made this past January, Rob's son Kelly had published a book titled To Dad from Kelly. It was a touching memoir of a father and son's journey through life together and how football, especially Michigan football, was such an integral part of that journey. Kelly Lytle joins me next on this week's Michigan Man here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. With us on our Michigan Man Extra segment this week is Kelly Lytle, a son of Michigan great and now College Football Hall of Fame member Rob Lytle. And as you remember, we've had Kelly on a couple of times this year, but we talked at that point about his dad's induction and his wonderful memoir book that was released at the tail end of last year, early this year, To Dad from Kelly. And we'll talk some more about that today. Kelly, it's wonderful to have you with us.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and thank you for bringing me on. Enjoyed quite a bit.
Well, it's truly a pleasure. And, leading up to this past week, which was a big one for the Lytle family, I read a statistic, Kelly, I found interesting. According to the National Football Foundation, there have been nearly 5.06 million players and coaches to step upon a college football field in the last 146 years. Upon the induction of the class of 2015, which was last Tuesday, only 963 players and 209 coaches have been enshrined into the Hall of Fame, and that is just, for you math majors, 0.0002%. And your dad, Rob Lytle, is one of them. You have to be so proud.
Incredible. I think we first heard that statistic when we were celebrating, having the event celebrating Dad at the Dad's induction at the University of Michigan in September, and then to hear them again this week while you're surrounded by all of the inductees, Brian Bosworth, Zach Thomas, Trev Alberts, Jim Tressel, Lincoln Kennedy, guys that you grew up either watching or seeing highlights of, or I grew up watching or seeing highlights of. And then you hear a statistic like that, and it's awe-inspiring to think that, my father, somebody who I knew, mostly as just my dad, and this guy that I grew up idolizing because he was just a great person, is now part of that just fraction of a percent of college football players. And it's just such an overwhelming honor and tribute to how he played the game of football and how much of his heart he put into the game. Just an incredible week, an incredible way to cap what has been a truly memorable year celebrating Dad's legacy.
No, absolutely. It's been quite a year for your mom, Tracy, for your sister, Erin, for you, Kelly, and the rest of the family. A whirlwind. And it started for you before you learned of your dad's enshrinement when you released your book, To Dad from Kelly. For the benefit of our listeners who have not read the book yet, can you tell us why you wrote it again and how it helped you in coping with your dad's far too early passing?
Certainly, appreciate you asking. To Dad from Kelly is it's a memoir about fathers and sons, lessons and questions in life and death, and it's a book of lessons that I wrote, a book of stories that I wrote to capture the lessons that I learned from my father, as well as to tackle some of the questions between us that either went unasked or unanswered because of his passing at the age of 56. It started for me as a series of letters that I was writing to my dad that started about a year after he died. And I was writing those letters just to heal, to cope with my grief. It was very cathartic for me. And over time, what evolved is the emotional foundation of To Dad from Kelly. And I found that I had this kind of wealth of stories and these really powerful, in my opinion, lessons and a way to say thank you to a man who, again, was just such a tremendous father and who I always revered and thought of as my best friend. In writing those stories, not only could I share a little bit more intimately and personally and honestly about who Dad was and the type of character he had and person he was, but I could also say thank you to him for being such a great father. And I could also heal myself, because I think anytime you're able to get such important emotions out into the open and to kind of talk through them, just becomes a very healing mechanism. And, all of that kind of rolled together to create this book. And then, of course, Dad's induction into the Hall of Fame this year gave me a lot of chances to share moments and lessons of Dad, not just as a football player, but as a father and a friend and everything else that he meant to so many of us.
Well, it's a wonderful book, a wonderful read, not just for Michigan football fans, and we'll talk a little bit more at the tail end about where folks can get a copy of that, because it's an outstanding work. Earlier in the year, though, Kelly, your mom received notification of your dad's induction into the Hall of Fame. Recount for us again the day your mom was notified and how she wasn't quite sure after receiving that FedEx package if it was a joke or it was the real deal.
Exactly. It's amazing to think that it's almost been a year since that moment. But I remember it so clearly. I was on vacation, actually in Hawaii, with my fiance's family, and my cell phone rings, and I forget what the hour difference is, but my mom's calling, and so answer the phone, and she says, "Hey, Kelly, there was a FedEx package that came in the mail today." So I went ahead and I opened it. And I just started chuckling because I'm like, well, of course you did, Mom. What else are you going to do with a FedEx food package addressed to you? And she was, she gave me a smart remark and told me to keep quiet. And then she said that inside there was a football addressed to Dad or commemorating Dad. When we realized that Dad had that this wasn't a prank, wasn't a joke. It was just incredible. We could not believe that Dad had been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and it was just a truly kind of shocking moment. And what we didn't know is that the Hall of Fame elections had been moved up earlier in the year because we'd known Dad's name was on the ballot for some time. So we always kind of kept paid a little bit of attention to when the election was taking place, but we didn't realize that it had been moved up to coincide with the national championship playoff. And so it really took us by surprise. And so, we went online and started Googling to make sure that the election was happening and that announcements were coming out. And very quickly we heard from the University of Michigan and a few other folks who were in the know. And what a great moment and great way to start the year.
Well, it's been a great year of honor for your dad, but there were several stops along the way to Tuesday night and the special ceremony, the enshrinement, that had to be special. Your dad was honored by your mom's, and your alma mater, Fremont Ross High School, and it's always special to be remembered, but even more so when it's the community and the place where you call home, isn't it, Kelly?
It is. And that was just another tremendous moment where, Dad so loved the University of Michigan, and of course he appreciated and enjoyed his time as a Denver Bronco, but for him, his passion for the game of football started as a little kid growing up in Fremont, Ohio. And before he was a Wolverine, before he was a Denver Bronco, he was a little giant from Fremont Ross. And he always carried such pride, not just for Fremont, but also deep love and passion for high school football. He always felt there was just a little bit more purity and innocence, I think, to the game. And so for Mom and I to have a chance to go back to our old high school, connect with some old friends, and have them share a few words about Dad's legacy and his place in the school's history, as well as his place within the history of football at the college level too, was just fantastic. And you just can't beat those moments. They just bring back so many emotions and memories of our own experiences there, and especially for my mom to be back at really the high school and the place where she and Dad met and first fell in love and first got to know each other. Just a remarkable kind of swirl or hurricane of emotions that all of this kind of happening over the course of the year, thanks to this induction, or the election. It's just incredible.
Well, then the Michigan Athletic Department honored your dad this fall at halftime of the BYU game, and there was a banquet in his honor the night before. That had to be another very emotional but proud event for the family, Kelly.
It is. Everything about this year has been humbling, and that weekend especially, where the number of former players and teammates that were there to show their support, the very kind words by Calvin O'Neill, Dad's former co-captain and teammate, very touching words and reflection from Michigan's interim athletic director, Jim Hackett, who was also a teammate of Dad's and a friend. The common refrain or the common words used were beloved and teammate, and everyone kind of echoed that sentiment that there might not be a more beloved teammate at the University of Michigan than Rob Lytle. And when you think about that in the history of all of the Michigan greats and the importance that Michigan, especially and with Bo Schembechler's legacy, always is placed on the team above everything else, above anything else, and to then hear from others about Dad's place as a teammate within the history of Michigan football, it's just inspiring and touching and humbling to know the kind of standard that his name is held to at this university with such a great history.
My guest on our Michigan Man Extra segment this week is Kelly Lytle, who's the son of Michigan great and now College Football Hall of Fame member Rob Lytle. And again, as we mentioned earlier, Kelly also wrote a wonderful memoir, To Dad from Kelly, which we'll talk about again a bit later in the show. Kelly, this past Tuesday, your dad was officially inducted into College Football's Hall of Fame. I'm sure the trip to New York for the ceremony was something you looked forward to all year. Was the entire experience what you thought it would be, or even better?
I think it was even better. You of course have high expectations, but you really never know exactly what to expect. But the whole experience was absolutely wonderful. You never quite know what the ceremony will be and what the events will be like, and will you be able to hold your emotions in check. But everything, I would say, lived up to and exceeded expectations, from being in New York City in December, which is just such a great time of year to be there, to having the event at the Waldorf Astoria, which is just one of the most beautiful hotels imaginable, and I had never had a chance to be there, so it was just kind of knock you back a little bit to be there, and then of course having a chance for my aunts and uncles, my dad's two sisters, to come, my sister and her husband, my fiance and I, and my mom, of course. And, we had a great family dinner on Monday night with lots of wine and lots of laughs and lots of stories. And then, of course, the events on Tuesday were just incredible. For somebody who grew up really idolizing his father and loving the sport of college football, to participate in the press conference as I did, and to be surrounded by such great football players or great football coaches and great people, was truly incredible. And to be able to say a few words and try to capture a little bit of my dad's spirit, in essence, was just magical. And then, of course, the ceremony itself, you just can't beat it. It was from top to bottom, it was incredible.
Well, the day before the ceremony, that press conference that you just mentioned, you represented your family and your dad at that presser. And you said you wondered what your dad would say if he was there, and I think you nailed it. You knew exactly what he would say, didn't you?
Yeah, you're trying to prepare. I didn't know what questions would come my way beforehand, so I tried to prepare a few nuggets or a few thoughts in my head, and that all kind of went out the window when they were they were recounting some of Dad's accomplishments and getting ready to pose a question to me, and I kind of looked down the banquet table, and there's Bill Snyder looking at me, and Jim Tressel looking at me, and Ricky Williams and Zach Thomas, all with their eyes on me. And again, I'm just like, wow, how did I end up in this place at this time? I better come up with something smart here. And so a little bit nerve-wracking, but then again, I thought Dad, he always did as a running back. He was quick to deflect any praise of him, and he would have thanked his offensive line, and he always did after every game, and he always did when we would talk about some of his accomplishments over beers as we got older. And so I thought that was a perfect way to kind of start and show his gratitude towards the team around him. And so it gave me a chance to show some of Dad's character as this truly humble and modest teammate whose main goal was just to help the team any way he could playing the game of football. And so I thought those words were fitting.
Well, Kelly, in your book and earlier this year when we talked, you said one thing that you struggled with to reconcile was how the game your dad loved so much, but also physically took so much from him and in turn your family. Have the events of this year helped you in that reconciliation or that struggle, or is it still ongoing?
No, I think they certainly help. I think the more experience you have with anything, no matter what it is, the more you're able to maintain things in perspective and keep kind of a clear-headed approach with all of the emotions that swirl around. But at the same time, these moments will always be melancholy. And this year will always be a truly magical year, but it will also be bittersweet. And there's no way around that, just because we're celebrating Dad's legacy and we're celebrating his history as a football player, and everything that he accomplished and really what the game meant to him. He loved it so much. But at the same time, we also know that playing the game of football took such a toll on him physically with nearly 30 operations and mentally with the double-digit concussions, and then, of course, just emotionally of how much it hurt him to have to walk away. And all of that, unfortunately contributed to him dying at such a young age. So we're up there and we're honoring his legacy and we're celebrating him, and we're celebrating this game of football that he loved, and he never would have done anything different. He loved the game of football, but we also know its repercussions. And so there's, we're getting better at reconciling it, but it'll always be bittersweet just because the game he loved and what we're celebrating also contributed to his unfortunate passing, and there's really no way around that.
Well, in closing, Kelly, getting back to what was a wonderful read for me earlier in the year, To Dad from Kelly. It's a wonderful story, and if you're a Michigan football fan, you'll love it if you haven't read it yet. But even if you're not a football fan, football really is a backdrop for the story of you and your father, a father and son journey through life together, and it is something we can all relate to. So if you have not picked up a copy yet, hey, it's Christmas time. I'm sure there's a Wolverine on everyone's shopping list that listens to this show that would love a copy. So Kelly, give us a rundown of where folks can still purchase a copy of the book.
Absolutely. You can get the paperback online at either Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And you can get the ebook from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Apple's iBooks. And actually, as of about a week ago, there's an audiobook version available that is available on the Nook or Barnes & Noble audiobook platform, as well as a few audiobook companies called Scrib and TuneIn. So can kind of cover all the bases there, and it's a great family read and holiday gift, or at least I hope it is.
Oh, I think it is. So we'll also get that information on my show notes page for those of you who don't have a pen or a pencil handy right now. Kelly, we thank you for your time. It's been a great year for the Lytle family, and I'm just a few years younger than your dad was, so I was in my seat there in the big house when your dad was playing one of my all-time favorite Michigan Wolverines. So I hope our paths cross again.
Absolutely. I appreciate all of the support, and it's always just such a joy to come on. So thank you so much.
Thanks to Kelly Lytle for being my guest today. Up next is Wolverine Quick Hits as we wrap it up for another week here on The Michigan Man on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. On Wolverine Quick Hits today, junior cornerback Jordan Lewis was named to the 2015 AutoNation Football Writers Association of America All-America Second Team on Monday. Lewis represents U of M's first FWAA All-American since center David Moak earned the honor in 2011. The last second-team honoree from U of M before Lewis was Dick Kempthorne way back in 1949. This marks the sixth All-America honor for Lewis this season. First Team USA Today, Sports Illustrated, Second Team Sporting News, Walter Camp Foundation, and Associated Press. Junior tight end Jake Butt and sophomore defensive back Jabril Peppers were named Second Team All-Americans by the Sporting News on Tuesday. Butt and Peppers represent U of M's first Sporting News All-Americans since offensive tackle Taylor Lewan earned the honor in 2013. The last year with multiple Wolverine honorees was 2004, when defensive lineman Alan Branch, defensive back Leon Hall, and offensive tackle Jake Long were all voted to the publication's second team. Both athletes have collected multiple All-America honors this fall. For Butt, this marks his third such honor, while Peppers is collecting his second national recognition. The University of Michigan women's basketball team closed the gap to 4 points with 6:52 left, but number 20 UCLA scored 8 straight points to put the contest away in an 86-77 Bruin victory on Sunday afternoon at Chrysler Center. Freshman Hallie Tome scored a career-best 24 points on 11 of 14 shooting, while also leading U of M in rebounding with 7 boards. Sophomore Caitlin Flaherty went for 20 points in 39 minutes of action, and freshman Nicole Munger chipped in 15 points off the bench. U of M shot 50%, 33 of 66 from the floor, but UCLA held a 45-27 advantage on the glass, scoring 16 second-chance points. Michigan is off to a 7-2 start and will return to action this Saturday at Chrysler Center when they host Miami of Ohio. Tip-off is scheduled for 2 p.m. In hockey news, freshman forward Kyle Connor scored twice, but the 9th-ranked University of Michigan hockey team saw its 6-game unbeaten streak end in a 3-2 loss to Minnesota on Saturday night at Yost Ice Arena. The Wolverines return to action in just about 2 weeks at the 51st Great Lakes Invitational, December 29th through the 30th, to be held at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. Michigan will play its opening game of the tournament at 7 p.m. against Northern Michigan on Tuesday, December 29th. The Wolverines will enter tournament play with a record of 9 wins, 3 losses, and 3 ties. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at The Michigan Man Podcast and follow us on Twitter at The Michigan Man, where you can also follow Wolverine Sports Radio at Go Blue Radio. Our free show apps are available from the iTunes Store, Google Play, and the Windows 8 App Store. If you get the show from iTunes, take a minute to rate or comment on the show. Thank you in advance. That will do it for today. We'll be back next week to talk Michigan hoops and maybe even update football recruiting news. Then on our last few shows of the month, we'll have our Citrus Bowl previews, so it's going to be a busy month, and I invite you to tune us in each week. If I have any Michigan Man extras in December, I promise I will give you a heads up. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until next time, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!